Today is the feast day of Saint Joseph, patron of the Universal Church and many other things.
I know some professors who refuse to teach on this. I'm biased, but I'm fair.
Let's talk about his symbols first. Joseph he has a ton of symbols, as any early saint does in the Christian church. Two of the most prominent ones are the carpenter square of the lily. So the carpenter square is it's kind of like a ruler in an L shape. And it not only symbolizes the fact that he was a carpenter, right? That was his trade, his craft, but it also represents this concept of truth. Because, like when things are true, when they are right, when they are rectified, right? They're made right. And that's in the symbol of a right angle there. The lily, for its part, represents purity and Joseph's celibate marriage to the Virgin Mary. Next, if we think about his patronage, he has a ton of things, as any early saint does. He's a patron of many, many things. And it's funny because just before I get into Joseph's patronage, we have, I forget, his name is Saint. Let me look it up. The guy who's a saint of gardens, and it's not Francis of Assisi like you would think. It's Saint Fiacre. Saint Fiacre. You've probably never heard of him. You might have seen his statue. He's often shown holding a book. Anyway, he was a monk in the 7th century. He's a garden, but he's also not just gardening patron. He's also the patron of like hemorrhoids, just random stuff. It's like, well, here you go. You're going to be a patron of many, many things. And that's the thing we see with Joseph. Joseph is the patron saint of, well, this is the big one, Universal Church, the whole entire Catholic Church. That's quite an honor when you think about it. One guy is the patron of the whole entire Universal Church. He's also the patron, as you would expect, of spouses and families, patron of fathers, patron of expectant mothers. For some reason, of house sellers and buyers. Many times you'll hear that is a tradition among at least American Catholics that if you want to sell your house, you take a little bit of statuette of St. Joseph and you bury him in your yard for some reason. I don't know how that ever started or why people do that, but they do. Also patron, as you would expect, of craftsmen, engineers, carpenters, and workers. There's also another feast day, I think sometime in May, known as Feast Day of St. Joseph the Worker. Also the patron saint of travelers, immigrants, and persons living in exile. And this harkens back to his time that he had to flee with the Virgin Mary and Jesus to Egypt because they were being pursued by Herod and trying to kill, or at least Jesus was. And also patron of the sick and dying and those wishing for a happy death. I'm not sure why this would be the case. Very interesting that, we know that Joseph, traditionally, because he's no longer mentioned later in the Gospels. He really only mentioned in the first few chapters of each Gospel when he is mentioned. And it's traditionally understood that that's because he died. So more patronages, not with respect to causes, but with respect to locations. He's also considered the patron saint of the New World. So that's quite interesting. I wonder how that got started. I don't have the answer for you, but among places in the New World, places like Canada, Mexico, Peru, and then places in the Old World too, like, China, patron saint of China, patron saint of Korea, patron saint of Austria and Belgium, Croatia, and patron saint of Vietnam. This is interesting because when I was in Vietnam about a little over a year ago, you would see statuettes of Joseph everywhere, little trinkets that you can buy. And one of them was that famous statue of the sleeping Joseph, right, when he was sleeping. And, the angel came to him in a dream because he was about to put Mary away and divorce her quietly because she became pregnant. And so, of course, he didn't want any part of it. He didn't want to make her really ashamed. And but then the angel saved the day, came visit him in the dream and let him know that, well, no, you shouldn't divorce Mary. This is in God's plan. Stick with it. And so he did. And so that angel coming to him in a dream. You also often find little statues of sleeping Joseph. And in fact, the Pope has one of these, a replica of this famous statue in his chambers, in his room. And the Pope actually, from time to time, will place special notes of intercession on pieces of paper and put them under the statue, Pope Francis. Now, we often know of Joseph as a working carpenter, but we forget that he's actually descended from royal lineage. So he also is very much like Mary, he's also descended from King David. Scripture doesn't really tell us much about Joseph or his background. Well, they do about his genealogy, but they don't really tell us how old he was, about his previous life. But some tradition tells us that they believe he was an older man and maybe a widower with earlier children from a previous marriage or something. Now, recently, this happened in this was on the 150th anniversary of the declaration of St. Joseph as patron of the Holy Universal Church. On that 150th anniversary, Pope Francis proclaimed a year of St. Joseph, beginning from December 2020 through December 2021. Now, that's really, really near and dear to my heart, because this is where I went through a divorce, had to go through the annulment later, and eventually got remarried. But this was a really hard time for me, and it's when I had to leave my career and follow my son, and I felt Joseph's strength and power in his intercession, and relying upon his intercession really transformed that time as being, very much like Joseph probably was feeling, the fact that I don't know what's going on, but I have to go and take care of my son. I just heard a brief, I wouldn't call it a homily because it was a men's group sort of meeting, and our pastor, Father Michael, was there giving this brief word of, and it was on the feast day of St. Patrick on March 17th. And he, given that, Joseph is so close, and Joseph's also near to my heart too, because it's like right near my birthday. And so, but Father Michael, he compared St. Joseph and St. Patrick, and he told both of them, he told brief bios of them. And he wanted us to focus on the difference between the theodrama versus the ego drama. So the ego drama is the one where it's just me, my life. We don't get much of that from either St. Joseph or St. Patrick. But we do get their theodrama, right? So we don't get much of their internal thinking. Like, we do get a little bit, we get a small speaking part of the Gospels, but we don't really hear much. I mean, so if you think about St. Patrick, all right, his feast day just passed. He was actually kidnapped and made to, I don't know if he was a slave or what it was, but he was made probably as a prisoner or something, but he was sent to Ireland. He was originally British, from Britain, and then he was sent to Ireland, and I think he was military. I guess I wasn't listening all that much, but either military, POW or something like that. And he was sent to Ireland, and then he finally was released or escaped, and eventually, did his studies to become a priest and then a bishop. And then he went back to Ireland to evangelize the Irish. And we're not given any of his internal thinking, St. Patrick, as to, did he really want to do this? What was he thinking? Did he return as a sense of this is going to resolve and it's going to make me, bring this full circle to where I feel like I've redeemed my time's prisoner here? We're not given any of it. We're just given the fact that he went there, he evangelized, and the rest is history. Same with St. Joseph. We're not given really anything about how much he felt. We know that he was intending on putting Mary away, but there had to be hundreds of times after that where doubts had crept up in his mind. Like, am I really supposed to be here? And is this really my role? I'm the father to a child that I didn't father. Now we're going to Egypt and we're coming back. And, so there had to be hundreds of times where he had this doubt and so on, but we're not given any of that. We're not given this first person perspective from St. Joseph on how he felt and what he should do and where he should go next, and how, whether he struggled with God's purpose in his life. We are only given the viewpoint from God's story, the theodrama. So I love this about St. Joseph. Let this be a reminder to all of us that this is perhaps something we can take to heart. This we can let go of, where I'm supposed to be. I mean, certainly be in God's will, whatever that may be, but let it be about God's will. Let it be about God's story and his theodrama, not necessarily what we want to do and whether we're fitting in, whether we're chasing this or that and how we feel about it. Let's make it more about whether we're doing what God would feel we would do.
Of course, if you're not subscribed, let this be a reminder from my wife to make sure you subscribe. And I look forward to hearing from you next time. Take care.